What is Down syndrome? In each cell of the human body, there is a nucleus. The nucleus stores all of the person's genetic material. The genes that are stored in the nucleus carry the coding that is responsible for all of the traits we inherit from each of our parents. Typically, there are 23 chromosome pairs in a person's genetic makeup. In Down syndrome, there is a full or partial extra copy of the 21st chromosome pair. The additional chromosome also alters the course of development of a person and causes different characteristics. Some physical traits include low muscle tone, small stature, an upward slant of the eyes, and a single deep crease across the center of the palm. These characteristics can occur in different degrees or not at all. How common is Down syndrome? About every 1 in 700 babies born in the United States is born with Down syndrome, which makes Down syndrome the most common chromosomal condition known in the United States. When was Down syndrome discovered? Down syndrome has been around and indicated in art, literature, and science for centuries, but it wasn't published until the late 19th century. This was done by John Langdon Down, an English physician that published an accurate description of a person with Down syndrome in 1866. He earned the acknowledgement as the father of Down syndrome after his scholarly work. It was then identified as a chromosomal condition by French physician Jerome Lejeune in 1959. He observed that there were 47 instead of 46 chromosomes in cells that belonged to someone who had Down syndrome. In 2000, a team of scientists cataloged and identified that there are around 329 genes on chromosome 21, which had then extended the research on Down syndrome. Are there different types of Down syndrome? There are 3 types of Down syndrome: trisomy 21, translocation, and mosaicism. Down syndrome is caused usually by an error in cell division called non-disjunction. This part of the cell division results in an embryo with 3 copies of chromosome 21 instead of 2. Then, that extra chromosome is replicated in every cell in the body as the embryo matures. This type of Down syndrome is known as trisomy 21, which accounts for 95% of all Down syndrome cases. Mosaicism is the least common form of Down syndrome. It accounts for only about 1% of all cases. Individuals with mosaic Down syndrome have fewer characteristics of Down syndrome than those with other forms of Down syndrome. However, Down syndrome characteristics are unique to each person, so broad generalizations are not possible. The final type of Down syndrome is translocation. In translocation, the total number of chromosomes in the cell is 46. However, an additional full or partial copy of chromosome 21 attaches to another chromosome, usually chromosome 14. The incidence of a full or partial chromosome 21 causes the characteristic of Down syndrome. What is the likelihood of having a child with Down syndrome? Down syndrome occurs in all people and is not prevalent in a specific socioeconomic level, though older women have an increased chance of having a child with Down syndrome. At age 35, a woman has a 1 in 350 chance of having a child with Down syndrome. At age 40, the chance increases to 1 in 100. At age 45, the chance becomes about 1 in 30. How is Down syndrome diagnosed? Prenatally, there are 2 categories of tests for Down syndrome that can be performed before a baby is born: screening and diagnostic tests. Prenatal screenings estimate the chance of a fetus having Down syndrome. These tests don't tell you for sure that the child will be born with Down syndrome, but it provides a probability. Diagnostic tests, however, are almost 100% accurate and can provide a definitive answer. At birth, Down syndrome can be identified by the presence of certain physical traits, including low muscle tone, a single deep crease across the palm of the hand, a slightly flattened facial profile, and an upward slant of the eyes. A chromosomal analysis will also be done to ensure that these physical traits are indeed related to Down syndrome. What impact does Down syndrome have on society? People with Down syndrome are increasingly being integrated in a positive way into society and community organizations. Such organizations include school, healthcare systems, workforces, and social and recreational activities. Individuals with Down syndrome can have varying degrees of cognitive delays, from mild to severe. However, most cases are in between mild and moderate. Today, people with Down syndrome are living much longer due to advances in medical technology. In 1910, the survival age was only 9 years old. Now, a good 80% of individuals will live until age 60 and may live even longer. Camp Anchor is a year-round recreation program operated by the town of Hempstead on Long Island. Anchor stands for Answering the Needs of Citizens with Handicaps Through Organized Recreation. The program is dedicated to children and adults with special needs who live in the town of Hempstead. Of the campers, there are many who have Down syndrome. I volunteered for the swim program within Camp Anchor for about 4 years during the fall, winter, and spring seasons. In this program, volunteers were matched with the camper and remained buddies for the remainder of the seasons. We would swim together and play games in the pool for about an hour or two every Thursday night. I found this experience extremely special because I was able to make such positive relations with amazing people.